The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Elite Shotgun. They stand behind you. Is fueled by Fiocchi.
Welcome to the Dead Pair Podcast. Coming in hot with everything you want to hear about sporting clays.
Ben Hustway.
Each short blind person would have to fight 14 kangaroos.
Let's get Anthony on the phone.
You're making a big mistake, okay?
Yeah. We're talking Gianna Santo tonight.
Well, I have something, but I don't know how much everyone's going to like it.
I was not ready for that.
With your hosts, Jason Rambo.
You just didn't want my wife to edit something else you did.
And Sean Alley.
Gotta keep it PG-13, man.
Often imitated, but never duplicated. It's the Dead Pair Podcast.
The Dead Pair.
And now, it's showtime.
What's up, Large and in Charge?
What's up, Mr. Worldly Traveler?
Worldly Traveler. I don't know about worldly, but I went to the World Championship.
That's right. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, my gosh, Sean Alley, you missed an event, man. I'm telling you, you should have been there.
I know the shackles were on here at the salt mine, so I just couldn't get away.
Oh, my goodness, dude. That was probably... The only thing that'll ever stick out in my brain more than that shoot will probably be the last time I shot with Dad.
Okay.
So, I mean, it was that memorable of an event. What an incredible event. Hats off to the Matteries family and all the staff at M&M. Absolutely phenomenal job. I mean, if anybody wants to know how to put on a shoot, go to M&M with a notepad and pen and start writing the second you pull in the gate and don't stop until you leave. So, I mean, what an incredible shoot.
Yeah, I saw an awful lot of good feedback on that. A lot of talk online, a lot of talk on the forums and stuff. So definitely seems like it went very well. And, you know, from what you said too, you had a great time. So, just make me jealous.
It was amazing. And, you know, we had people from every nationality. Some of them could barely speak, you know, just broken English, were coming up and saying how much they love the show and everything. It was, you know, felt really good. But, you know, Sean, Nationals is bigger, okay, than this shoot. But it's also a bigger, I don't know if Anthony probably owns more land, but the way he made this feel is it was so intimate. You know, Nationals, if you want to go see a vendor, you could be a half-mile hike to get to where they're at.
Right.
And here, everything just just had that small shoot feel to it with a whole lot of people. But it was just awesome. I don't even know how else to put it. I mean, it's hard for me to put it in words.
Well, I got to put that one in my bucket list again. So whenever the worlds come back around in the United States, I'll have to try to make it to that one then.
Or you can just go to E.J. Churchill next year.
Oh, yeah. That would be nice.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Well, hey, speaking of phenomenal and amazing, we have none other than our new world champion, Mr. Brandon Powell, going to join us tonight.
Yes, sir.
So been chasing this guy for a long time, and seems like our schedule's finally lined up, and we're going to get him on the phone here in a minute. Hey, we got a couple new things. First of all, if you go to the show description in whatever podcast you're listening to, you'll look right at the very top. It says, send us a text. This is a new feature that we have, and you can it comes right to my app and Sean's app. So this is going to be really good. If you have questions for the coaches, or if we have a contest or anything and you want to respond to that, even if you're not on social media, it's easy enough, right? If you're listening to this podcast, you can go send us a text through any of those outlets. So that's something new. Hoping everybody takes advantage of that. Also, Sean Alley, we have a tourney talk to get to.
Yes, we do.
It's Tourney Talk. Brought to you by Score Chaser.
All right, guys, the 2025 Florida Challenge at Bradford Sportsman's will open on May 24th, so it should be open by the time you guys hear this. This shoot will be held February 20th through the 23rd. Again, that's 2025. And also, the Gator Cup, 2025 Gator Cup, opens up June 1st. That will be held at Blackwoods Quail Club, March 18th through the 23rd. Again, that is 2025. All right, guys, we got one last minute. This one came in very last minute, actually. We have the Ducks Unlimited Battle for the Buckle. This is Saturday, June 8th at Jacksonville Clay Target Sports in Jacksonville, Florida. The tournament's comprised of 3 separate events, a prelim, a main event, and a charity shoot. This is going to be a fun one for some friends of ours. Just some quick highlights. They had over 148 shooters compete in this event last year. They were featured in the November-December issue of Ducks Unlimited. And after the main and charity events are over, shooters will meet up at the clubhouse for dinner, open bar, silent auction, and over $35,000 in raffles and prizes. So once again, guys, the Ducks Unlimited Battle for the Buckle is up. Get on Score Chaser and get registered if you can go to that. That is June 8th of this year.
Awesome. Hey, speaking of tournaments, we had something really cool happen. The gentleman wants to remain anonymous, but we had somebody donate an extra $1,000 that's going to be split between D and E class for the purse at the Dead Pair Blast. So not only are those two classes going to get their 100%, $100 back to class, but they're also getting an extra $500 boost in their purse.
And it was strictly because he knows we're catering towards getting new shooters and stuff into the sport, so he's trying to give something back to new shooters. So that's awesome.
And he's a new shooter himself, so
right.
He has kind of tugged on his heartstrings there, and he's like, I'm like, well, I'll tell everybody. He's like, no, I want this anonymous. I'm like, okay. So he's mailing a check to Vero, and that money will be there and ready to go.
Nice.
So,
well, then nobody can complain about being in the lower classes and not making as much money as the big guys.
That's right.
Actually, they'll make more.
They very well possibly could. So think about that, people. If you haven't signed up for the Dead Pair Blast, it doesn't matter what class you're in. It's $100 back to class. We're going to have a 2-day main.
Yep.
200 birds. 100 bird prelim, 100 bird fee task. I can't remember. I think the super sporting's 50 bird.
I believe so.
Yeah, and then we also have 5 stand. So
yeah, and if you can't do it all, at least maybe try to do the main, because I think it's worth coming out just for the main by itself.
Plus, we're gonna have all the giveaways at the dinner. The dinner's gonna be phenomenal. So you guys don't want to miss that shoot. I know it's not till December, and here we are in June, or about to be June, but. Get signed up.
Get it on the calendar.
Yeah, you want to commit to it because it's a good one.
Definitely.
Hey, Sean, I just got a text from Brandon. He's ready to go, so let's give that man a buzz.
All right.
The Dead Pair.
All right, everyone. If you follow the sport, you know who this man is. But in case you don't know, this guy, since October, has won the national championship, the Gator Cup, the Seminole Cup with 300 straight, the Southeast Regional, the Caribbean Cup, the RC Cup, the Atlas Cup, and now on the phone with us is the 2024 World Sporting Champion, Brandon Powell. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Great to be here.
Brandon, I tell you what, man, I'm going to go right into it. I know this was on your bucket list for a long time, and obviously the other achievements are fantastic in and of themselves, but, what does this world title really mean for you?
I worked for a really, really long time, and I've been a part of the game, part of the industry. Taking that 5 years off, it killed me to be away from the sport. And it kind of just now really starting to sink in, winning that. There's a lot of great shooters that shoot their entire life over here, and they win national championships, they win U.S. Opens, and they never seem to win a world championship. So it's just, it's unbelievable, honestly.
Well, we're going to dive more into you here in a second, but talk about the shoot itself at M&M as a whole. What was your thoughts on the event there and everything that the Matarices did?
The Matarice family, they're just wonderful people. Me and Anthony have grown up together in the sport. Anthony, started a little bit before I did. And, we've been friends for a really long time. Battled it out as juniors and, through our careers in the sport, against one another. And you couldn't ask for, everything they did there was great. The hospitality, the way everything was set up, I was kind of skeptical going into it. I'd told a lot of people, and I'd heard a lot of people talk about, that's, having 1,800, 2,000 people there shooter wise. There was probably more on the grounds. They couldn't have done a better job with everything that they did. I thought it was fantastic. The targets were really, really good. The kind of targets that you ought to have at a world championship. They were hard. They were good targets, though. Everything was very hittable. Nothing with a lot of distance. They were just, it was a well laid out, well planned out shoot.
Well, that was actually my next question, was the targets for this event. Now, I know targets are something you and I have had private discussions about, and we are going to get into that as targets as a whole in the sport. But for this event, Brandon, I'm nowhere near the competitor that you are, and I thought the targets were where they should be for a world championship event. But what was your thoughts? Was there some stuff you thought was too light or too hard, or just this shoot? What do you think?
Well, I thought Skull did an amazing job on his course. Everything was out in the open. They were bigger. Anthony threw, some really good targets here and there, and he threw stuff that to kind of keep it even keeled. I feel like I personally would have liked to have seen a world championship with 3 days of nothing but what we shot on the 694. But, you know, you gotta try to please everybody. I understand that. I thought that there was some targets on the DT11 and the SL2 course that were a little softer for a world championship. But, you know, all in all, I think the harder stuff, there was enough hard stuff there that it panned out and it worked out for everybody.
Well, I had a conversation with Joe several times and Anthony throughout the event, and it's like, to me, they found the weakness in 2,000 shooters, and I had a conversation with Chad Roberts about this, and we both agreed it seemed like they wanted to test you on how well you can move the gun and how well you can read a target. Would you agree with that?
100%. I mean, there was a bunch of stuff that I missed on DT11 that I know I shouldn't have missed. You know, I'd get in the box and I'd miss one or two of them, and everybody'd look at me and go, God, you know, I can't believe you missed that. But, you know, that's part of the game. You know, Anthony's really good at you know, throwing stuff that's real deceiving and deceptive, and Skull, you know, a lot of transition on his targets. I don't think that anything on any of the courses was over the top at all. I thought, if anything, it could have been harder.
Gotcha. Well, Brandon, let me ask this. Let me go another direction. So being that this was a world championship, obviously there was some really tough competition from all over the world. I know you're very familiar with shooting with the people that compete regularly in the United States, so you know kind of who you're up against and how they shoot. But was there anybody coming in from outside the U.S. that you were maybe concerned about, or just didn't know how you were going to stack up against them?
Not really. I mean, Mark Windsor, James Atwood, Phil Gray, George Digweed, all those guys, I've been friends with them for a really long time. They're all, you know, fierce competitors. You know, when I go into a shoot like that, I never, when I get to a shoot, do I ever think or worry about who's there. You know, for me, the more competition, the better.
Well, now I'm going to shift gears again. I noticed a lot of emotions out on the course, and people were mainly getting mad at themselves, right? But not only that, Brandon, you're someone that gets very excited when you do well. Like, you know where you're at in the standings, and when you run a station, I mean, I've seen you slam shells in the bucket, like, yes, you know. What's your take on that, Brandon? Not only your emotions, but what you see from other people. I mean, because I want to know this from you as a competitor, because you're someone that seems to be able to keep that in check.
Well, you know, when I get through, I'm extremely tired, I think, mentally, and from all the adrenaline and all the intensity that I bring to the cage, or to the course, I guess you could say. But, you know, watching people for the entirety of my career, I think that that's something that you need, something that you got to have. You got to be into it. I mean, if you can stand there and, you know, miss two or three and not get upset about it, or miss one and not get upset about it, then you know, you're lacking in a certain department with, as far as your drive and your desire to want to win. And that's what that comes from, you know. And me as a kid, it actually caused me some controversy and got me into some trouble. But I think now it's just, I was misunderstood, and people understand now, since some of the videos we've done and talking and being back in the game, people understand that I'm just really intense when I shoot. And it's, you know, it's not a bad attitude. It's not poor sportsmanship. It's just the intensity that I bring to the cage that's needed for me to get the job done.
Well, it's the fierce competitor in you know.
Correct.
What I mean? So I tell you what, let's circle back on the target topic. You know, you and I have had this discussion, whereas you feel the targets need to get harder as a whole. Give us your stance on that, Brandon, if you don't mind sharing that conversation.
Well, if you go back, you know, when I first started the game, when John Kruger, Scott Robertson, you know, Corey Cruz, Anthony Matarese, all of us guys were winning when we were younger, when we were, I guess, you know, you could say kids. You know, you go out and, you know, a 200 target event, you could shoot 90, 91, and, you know, that would seal the deal. You know, there's been stuff made. We've, you know, technological advances with, you know, the equipment, the machines. Everything's gotten better. Now we're able to throw transition with speed, distance. All of that stuff is, you know, it's changed the game a lot, but we've got a lot more people shooting now. And I think that the masses that are coming to these events, they're having to cater to the masses. and they can't set all the targets hard, unfortunately. I think it's bad for the game, and it's not something that I enjoy. But, at World Championships, big shoots, regionals, nationals, nationals has had the last 2 years, I feel like, the best targets they've ever had. It's gotten stiffer here recently, but I think that at those big tournaments, you need harder targets.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, I knew what your answer was going to be because you and I had this conversation. But let's kind of play devil's advocate a little bit. I mean, absolutely, as a top competitor, you want tougher targets because it's going to kind of I don't want to use the word train, but it's going to kind of, get you accustomed to those targets when you do have to go up against the world champion of everybody in the world, right? So, but again, devil's advocate is a club and a sport as a whole. We have to remember there's hundreds, if not thousands, of other people at that shoot that aren't master class, that aren't the top pinnacle like you are. So how do we have that delicate balance? I mean, how do we have tougher targets for top competitors yet still keep it fun for the lower classes?
Well, I've always said that, the highest score is going to win the shoot. But I mean, whether you throw them hard or you throw them soft, especially when you throw them hard and you throw them good, distance, speed, angle transition, you throw it all at the shooter. That's the goal of the target setter. The best is still going to win in each class, all the way down to D class. The top guy is still going to shoot what he's going to shoot in all of those classes. But I think the problem is people that go out and they go to their local clubs. Your local clubs don't throw hard, challenging targets because they want to keep the masses coming in for practice. Those people get used to shooting charity style targets, is what we call them. And when they show up, they see targets they've never seen before, and they jump in the cage and they're lost. They don't know what to do.
Right. And I think, if the consensus, I've said this before, I think if the consensus is that, hey, look, I'm going to go to a regional or a U.S. Open or a national, I'm used to shooting in the 70s. I understand going into this event, I may shoot in the 50s or 60s if I'm lucky. If that was the general consensus, I think it would change the mindset and the attitudes of some of the competitors that get upset when the targets are hard. You know what I mean?
And I think that's 100% of it. If we circle back to Southeast Regional, I thought that, Zach and his crew there did a fantastic job on the targets that they set. Everything was breakable. Everything was hittable. They were stout. It was one of those courses both days that didn't let up. It was tough, but what people got to remember too is we shot in some really, really, really windy conditions over that, 3 or 4 day period there at the Southeast Regional at Forest City Gun Club. And that made the courses alone, 4 or 5 birds harder, I felt like, than what it should have been.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon, let me ask your opinion on this along the same lines. So it's very hard for a club, like you said, to keep everybody happy, from a DE class shooter all the way up to a AA master class shooter. So the danger, of course, obviously you throw too hard of a target, you risk the negative effect of turning off some of the lower class people. Is that something that, in your opinion, and what most clubs maybe would go along with, would be like, it's okay to lose some of the lower class people? Because again, this is a premier event, like a US Open or a World's event. Is it okay to kind of turn those people off away from those events? Would you rather see, the BA, AA master classes there versus the lower classes, or what do you feel about that?
Well, I don't think you're ever going to see that happen because, they're in the business to throw targets, and the more people they have, the more money they're going to generate, the more money they're going to make. At the end of the day, I think what needs to happen over time is people need to train harder. They need to practice harder stuff. They need to get out of their comfort zone. I think the biggest issue here is they show up, and a lot of those birds on that 694 course, 5 or 6 stations on Anthony's courses, the targets were just out of what I like to call the comfort zone of most people. And when that happens, they just kind of flip out and they don't know what to do.
Gotcha. And that's fair. I mean, that's totally fair. All right, now I'm gonna change gears once again. All right, so I'm gonna go back to something a little more personal. Let's talk a little bit about you and what's changed with you in the last couple of years. And I mean this with all respect. I mean, for the newcomers to the sport that may not know your history, you kind of did have a rough past. And again, I mean that with all respect. What do you think has changed within you that's allowed you to kind of overcome that, move forward, and become the shooter that you are today?
Well, I think the biggest thing is people are, that's one good thing about the American people. They're very forgiving. And I think when you make mistakes, when you own those and, you admit that you screwed up and you did some things you shouldn't have done, I think that was where everything really turned around for me. Of course, having a little girl and having to raise her when I took my 5 years off, I got to a point where I just had to grow up a lot. And when I made my comeback and won that US Open, I decided that this is what I want to do. This is where I belong. I love the game. I love the sport. I love the people. And, this is where I belong. So I just started, just one shoot at a time, and I've worked really hard on it. And, here we are.
Brandon, you kind of tugged on a heartstring with me because, I'm one of those people, I'm deep ingrained into the sport, and I knew some of your past and stuff. But then when I heard you had taken the time off and you gained full custody of your daughter, unfortunately, you'd went through a divorce and all that. But when you gained full custody, that kind of tugged, because I have a little girl too. And the fact that you were a good father and you stepped up to the plate, to me, you got a pass. You know what I mean? And
right.
I'm not going to lie, Brandon, it's been nice to see you grow, not only as a competitor, but as a person. Have you had this comment maybe from some people that didn't like you before? I mean, have you heard this? I'm not the first person to tell you, surely.
No, you're not. And I've heard it a lot lately. And, it feels good that people have taken note and they've noticed that, people can change. And, we've all got skeletons in our closet. We've all done stuff we probably shouldn't have done. And some of us have done stuff that we probably ought to be underneath the jail for. But, that's part of life. And I feel like the things that we do growing up mold us into who we are. And, there's no doubt that I was born to be a shotgun shooter and be a part of the sport. And I think now, when I show up, I prioritize things better than what I did when I was a kid. And I realized that how big of an influence and ambassador I can be for this sport now.
Well, I mean, look, you and I both have a past. I mean, I was known as an a-hole, and in some circles I still am. So,
No comment.
See what I got to work with every day, Brandon? So.
Yep.
Well, Brandon, let me ask you this. So, I mean, again, you've made huge strides. Obviously, the results speak for themselves. So what's next for Brandon Powell? Are you looking into, is there any other things on your bucket list? Are there other directions that you want to go? Can you tell us a little bit about what you're seeing down the road for you?
Well, several people made the comment, you finally won the one you wanted to win. You won the Nationals. You won several U.S. Opens. And I said, well, they're like, you're done now. What are you going to do? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not done. I feel like winning the first one's the hardest goal. And once you achieve that, the sky's the limit. So now I honestly, want to see how many I can actually win. I want to finish this year out, and hopefully it'll continue to be as good as it's been to me. And I'm thinking about actually maybe transferring over and taking some time off of sporting clays at the end of the year here and trying to make the bunker team and shoot Olympic bunker.
Oh, nice.
I was actually just about to ask you that because you had murmured that to me clear back at Jack Links, and I'm glad you said it and I didn't have to pull it out of you. But is that's something you want to try for those Olympics, man? That's very respectable.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is. Me and Derek Mine are really good buddies, and he's a heck of a shot. He's won in a lot of different disciplines in the game, and me and him practice when we can together, and I train bunker with him when he wants to practice, and I shoot the game really, really good. And the Olympics are going to be coming to the United States here in 28, so it's something that I've always wanted to do, and I'm really good at it. So we've been kind of joking around now for a couple of years about me trying to try out and make the team with him. So it's something that's possible here in the near future.
I remember last year at Anthony's for the Northeast Regional, you guys were up there just hammering targets. I'm like, my God, are they ever going to come off that bunker? I mean, I don't know how many rounds you guys shot, but it was like, wow, this is impressive. It was fun to watch.
Right.
So what about Powell Performance? Anything new on the horizon you can tease us with?
Well, we're actually in the process right now of trying to get a bunch of videos done. We're going to be coming back with more videos They're going to be done a little bit differently than what we did with Devin Anderson and Steve, Mr. British, with Back Edge. We're gonna go a little more in depth and work on breaking down try to break down all the different types of target presentations and actually shoot those on video and shoot them with a lot of the different fundamentals that I use and shooting methods and discuss that and try to get those up on a website on the web here in the near future.
Wow. Any talks with Mr. Claxton about doing maybe some instructional videos like Anthony and Zach and those guys did, or is that a possibility?
I have spoke with him in the past, and he's really busy, and I'm not sure what all he's got going on right now, but I'm discussing doing some stuff with some other people, and that's definitely something that we're going to be bringing to the table here in the near future. Okay. We've got a meeting tomorrow on that.
So you're going to do more like an online subscription type deal, kind of like what Ben Husway did, maybe?
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
What Gavin and Karen are doing, it's going to be a subscription thing. And then I think we ultimately will do a big video, but we're going to try to do a subscription channel as well.
That is very cool. That's awesome.
Well, Brandon, as everybody knows, we've been chasing you around for a while now, and it's just awesome that you've got to go on the show for the first time. And I'm sure that you've probably heard us do the rapid fire segment. Would you be willing to do that for our listeners?
Sure.
Okay, cool. All right, well, let's start it off. Give us your gun, make, and model.
So I shoot a Krieghoff K80 Parkours. I shoot Remington 1235 Nitros, all 7.5s. I like to keep it simple. Briley choke tubes. 22,000 99% of the time is the constriction that I shoot in the gun. ESP electronic shooters plugs and Pila Deniset Clay Target Vision. I use all the Pila Performance eyewear.
Well, he just slam dunked you, Sean.
You're taking all the work away from me, Brandon.
Okay.
What about your barrel length?
32 inch.
All right. Now you run. I'm sorry. Did you say you run factory chokes or?
No, you said Briley.
Briley chokes. Okay, Briley chokes. And then are you ported or unported?
Ported.
Okay.
Briley ported.
Gotcha. And then what about you said glasses you're doing?
He's Pila.
Pila.
But what about your stock, Brandon? Custom stock?
Stock, Winnig.
Okay.
Winnig custom gun stocks.
And then I had somebody come up to me at the Worlds, and it's kind of funny because we're doing this rapid fire, and they said, hey, when you do your rapid fire, ask these pros how they like their point of impact.
So it's kind of funny you say that. So one of the best things that probably could have happened last year, as everybody knows, my barrel blew up on me at the U.S. Open out in Arizona, and I guess I got lucky and I actually had a barrel that was shot 50-50. It was dead flat.
Okay.
Well, I struggled for a long time with rising birds, but we got me to Krieghoff. We picked a new barrel out, and I set my new one up 60-40, and it really improved my game now with being able to come up to the bird and not fully cover up the target and be able to pull the trigger without losing sight of the target. So it really, really improved my game a lot.
Wow. That's awesome.
Well, no, wait, I'm not done yet.
Okay,
Not done yet.
Go ahead.
All right, I already know the answer to this, Brandon, but do you wear a vest or a shell bag?
Shell bag.
Yeah, I know. And then what kind of shell bag do you use? Are you partial to anything?
No particular one. I've got a couple of them. Albert Ainge is a guy that has a company, and he's made me a couple of the custom elephant skin ones. They're real nice, but nothing in particular.
Gotcha. And then last but not least, we always ask what's in your bag, and that is like in your shooting bag, do you carry any lucky rabbit's foots or 4-leaf clovers or anything crazy like that?
Nothing crazy.
Okay. All right. So pretty plain Jane then.
You gotta pretty much make your own luck.
Yeah, there you go.
Gotcha.
If you carry a stash of those big cigars you had there at the Worlds, I'll take one of those. Man, that thing smelled good. Brandon, I know you've got some people that stand behind you and help you, and I'm sure you got some people you want to thank that's helped you along your way.
Oh, 100%. I wouldn't be able to do what I do without my fiance, Tiffany. She's always with me, and everybody probably wonders, what do they do with their kids? But we always, she's helped me a lot, really, changed a lot of my outlooks on life, and not just for shooting, but just in general in my personal life. So that's helped a lot. But, people like Rick Webb and, Hunter Webb and his Rick's wife, they've done a lot for me to help me to, not just, traveling with me and being supportive, financially. I've got, a lot of people that have helped me, Chip Welch and Industrial Chemicals and Double D, Dave Dalton and Gene at Cherokee Rose, Rick Hemingway, Mike Lawonga. There's a really big long list. The guys at Briley that have really done a lot to help get me to where I'm at now.
Do you, speaking of which, do you shoot for Krieghoff International or Krieghoff USA or which?
Krieghoff International.
Krieghoff, okay. I wasn't sure. I know you shoot for Krieghoff. I just wasn't sure which one it was. But Brandon, this has been awesome, man. We've been chasing each other now for about a year, and we finally got our schedules to meet up. Is there anything we're leaving out, man? Any closing thoughts?
No, I think we touched on anything, and if the viewers have anything that they come back with you and, want us to talk about, I think that, have them send their comments in and you can get in touch with me and we can try to do another one of these and answer any of those questions that they have.
Yeah, if you'd like to do a questions for the coaches segment, we'd love to have you back on for that.
Yeah, that'd be really cool, man. We do that segment, questions for the coaches. People write in and we call you up, and we won't keep you as long, but we'll get you to answer a couple questions if you're willing to do that.
Yeah, not a problem.
Cool. Well, you heard it first here, folks. If you got a question for Brandon, write us, email us, shoot us a message on Facebook, and we'll get it to Brandon and we'll get him answered.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that, Brandon, coaching, if somebody does want to take lessons from you, what's the best way for them to find you?
Best way to find me is probably, Facebook, Instagram. I'm all over that. Power Performance Shooting. They can look that up and contact me there. Or, they could email me at proshooter86@gmail.com.
Okay, perfect. Well, Brandon, thank you very much, man. I know you've probably got a million people hounding you now that you just won the World Championship. So we really appreciate you spending some time with us. You're welcome back anytime, man. And hopefully I know we're going to end up with a pile of questions for you. So
definitely,
we'll get you back on for that questions for the coaches segment soon.
Yes, sir. Looking forward to it, guys. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much, Brandon. We appreciate you. And keep going, man. Keep trucking.
We're going to keep doing our best. Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right, we'll see you.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right, bye-bye.
Hey guys, Jason and I really love bringing this podcast to you week after week, but it does take a lot of time and a lot of resources to make it happen. And without these very special people, we couldn't do it on a week-by-week basis. Hey, Toby Tomplay, help these guys remember who they need to support.
Yes, sir. They can support Fiocchi USA, Elite Shotguns, Vero Beach Clay Shooting Sports, Score Chaser, Dawn Grant, Odo Pro Technologies, Rhino Chokes, RE Ranger, Taconic Distillery, and Atlas Trap Company.
Well, Jason, I will say it again. That was well worth the wait.
Yeah, for sure. Brandon, I know the past, but the man that he's became is totally different.
Absolutely. I think that was well said by him. And I think it also shows a big level of growth and maturity on his part.
Yeah.
Like he said, most Americans are pretty good and pretty forgiving as long as you own up to what you do. And I think that's 100% accurate.
Yeah. But you know what? Look, let's face it. Here's the bottom line. 2024 World English Sporting Champion. And
let's not forget all those other half dozen.
Like national champion,
U.S. Open,
and U.S. Open.
Right.
Well, no, he was second at U.S. Open.
Southeast Regional,
and Gator Cup, Caribbean Cup,
a few little accolades, a couple. The man's on fire. Let's just put it like this: the man's on fire, and he's shooting very well.
He is a fierce competitor, and I think everybody better be paying. Even his close competitors need to be paying attention to what he's doing.
Oh, I have no doubt they are. They're probably, every time he comes to an event, they're probably well aware that he's there, and they understand it's an uphill battle.
Yeah, and a special thank you to Brandon, not only for doing this podcast, but for being willing to answer everybody that's listening to this, their questions, questions for the coaches. What an opportunity to hear from the reigning national champion and our current world champion, Brandon Powell. So, if you guys got questions, like I said, right at the beginning of the show, or right up top of the show description, there's a little button there. Send us a text. Hit it. Send us our questions. We'll get them to Brandon, and we'll get them answered.
Absolutely.
So, Sean Alley, this has been awesome, man. We had Brandon Powell on. We've covered lots. We had a good tourney talk. Lots of new tournaments coming up.
Yep.
That Florida Challenge, I'm telling you, Sean, you're gonna have to go to that. You're gonna have to make it to Bradford. Of course, the Gator Cup goes without saying. The Finizis do an awesome job with that shoot, no matter where it's at.
Yes, they do.
So, and then of course, Brandon Powell. So
yeah.
Sean Alley, what do we tell everybody every week?
Well, folks, take somebody new shooting. Again, we're trying to grow this sport. We're trying to make people more aware of it. And all you have to do is be the ambassador to invite somebody out to your local club, put a gun in their hand, let them break some targets, watch the smile on their face, and hey, you might just bring somebody new into the fold.
Safety first.
Safety first, as always, and then they can go gun shopping later.
And the Dead Pair Challenge.
Dead Pair Challenge, bring somebody out, post it on Facebook, post it on Instagram. I mean, I've done it. Jason, I think you need to get something on there. We're waiting on you, buddy.
No, I'll get something up. You're absolutely right.
All right.
I've taken people out, but I haven't posted it.
You got to post it up there and show them out there. Show them how it's done. So lead by example.
There you go. I like that.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. All right. Call me out. I got it.
It's not like you never do that to me. Come on.
Who, me?
Yeah, no, you would never.
I've always been so nice to you.
Oh, you have.
We've gotten emails from about it too.
We have. We have.
It's like, man, you buy that guy flowers?
Hold on, I got hip waders around here. Give me a second to get them on.
Oh, this has been awesome, folks. But hey, listen, Sean Alley, until next week, my friend.
Can't wait to see y'all back here on the Dead Pair Podcast.
We'll see you next time on the Dead Pair Podcast.
The Dead Pair Podcast is brought to you by Elite Shotguns and Vero Beach Clay Shooting Sports and is fueled by Fiocchi USA. The Dead Pair theme song was written, arranged, and produced by Toby Tomplay. Big thanks to the following sponsors: RE Ranger, Odo Pro Technologies, Rhino Chokes, Dawn Grant, Score Chaser, Taconic Distillery, and Atlas Trap Company.